Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing, testing. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. It's nearly here. April 23rd, 11 o'clock Pacific time. So depending on where you are in the world, it could be the middle of the night. You can't please everybody all of the time. But yes, 11 o'clock. It's something that we've been waiting for a long time. Right, so where are we? What are we going to do today? Let's log on here. We're getting there slowly but surely. But yes, we are happy, happy, happy. So the developer live stream is on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. I think we should get rid of this little lot. Is there anything in here? I think that there is. Bye-bye. So yeah, it's the developer live stream. And we are going to get information on all the skill trees. So what does it say? It says tune into the pre-launch live stream. Wanderer, prepare for the reckoning. Our next live stream begins on April 23rd. 11 a.m. Pacific, with an in-depth look at content releasing with the Lord of Hatred expansion and upcoming seasonal updates. So they're going to mention something about the season as well. This is probably going to be a huge, long affair. Maybe 5 or 6 hours. Yeah, probably an hour. Maybe a little bit longer, but it's usually about an hour or so. We'll share all the final details of the upcoming launch and dive further into the new class skill trees, the talisman system where you get the sets, the bonus sets, the heraldic cube where you do all the transformations and all the different upgrades that you can have, new endgame systems, which is the war plans, and more. What else is there? There will also be a Q&A section at the end of the stream for you to ask questions directly to the team. And you can get some cosmetics if you watch, which I won't be able to get because I won't be watching live, not in the middle of the night. So we've got all the class skills. That's massive. I mean, I will hold my hand up and say I was a bit stupid yesterday. As I was talking through the Warlock skill tree, I thought it was being up on the live stream, but in fact it wasn't. So you could hear me talking about it, you could see me talking about it, but you couldn't actually see the skill tree itself. So I thought today I'd start off with the skill tree. So let me see if I can get this done properly this time. So we're Diablo 4, window capture, and then maybe you can actually see the tree this time. I'll see if it comes up on. There we are. It worked this time. So that's the whole skill tree. So everybody's skill tree is going to look something similar. There are obviously going to be a few differences here, you know, for the actual skills, but the setup of the skill tree itself is going to be pretty much looking like this. So no matter whether you're on the Paladin, whether you're on the Rogue, Barbarian, whatever, you're going to have something similar to this. Now, as we saw with this season's Paladin, we got this part of the tree itself, but what we didn't is get the other branches on the twig. So we got the main. Come here. We got the sort of the main tree, and we got part of the twigs of the tree, or the branches. So we got the branch that had the 3 different skill sets that you could change the skills, but what we didn't have was the little twigs to the sides. And the little twigs they're looking pretty impressive. So let's see if we can get this right. So the first one is the basic skills. Now, you can have 70 points in here. Now, one also thing I would say is that I don't know if you can open from here to here without actually filling in all of this stuff. Because if this season, you need to be able to, you put in so many points to open up the next major node, and then so many points to open the next major node, and so on and so on and so on down to the bottom. If they do the same, I don't know exactly how many points you're going to need to open up each particular node now. If they don't, and I can remember one of the videos was you were about 40 points or even less, and you already had your ultimate, which you can't do right now in the current season. So if you can just sort of open all the way down to here, you only need 13 skill points to be able to open your ultimate. I don't think it's going to happen that way, but it would be very nice if it did. But you only need 13 skill points. So that's before most people have got their class skills. So I don't think that that's probably going to be true. I think you're probably going to have so many points in the basic to open the core, so many points in the core to open the next and the next and the next and so on. That would be in more keeping with what we've been used to in the season so far. So let's go through these a wee bit. So this is your basic skills for the Warlock. We've got Command Fallen, Molten Bomb, Doom, and Hellion Sting. They generate all the same wrath, but the lucky hits are a wee bit different. So basic demonology, lesser demons, basic occult hellfire, basic occult abyss, basic demonology. I think, for me anyway, I'm going to be going this route. And the reasons why, I'll start off at the other side first. So you've got the Hellion Sting, which is a basic in demonology. Wrath generation 10, lucky hit 25%. Whip a demon tail forward, dealing 66% damage with a 5% chance to eviscerate enemies for an extra 660 damage, which is pretty neat. Then you can sort of, one of your twigs is the Hellion Sting, deals 50% multiplicative increased damage to enemies for 3 seconds after you've first strike them. So that's a little bit DOT, damage over time. Or you can choose casting Hellion Sting increases your wrath generation by 10% for 3 seconds, up to 30%. So that's an additional wrath generation. There's two generators that you need, wrath and domination. So this is a wrath generator. Then if we come down to the bottom, we've got eviscerate. Hellion Sting is a 40% increased eviscerate chance against your primary target, and that's 40% multiplicative, but that's only a chance, not damage. When you strike an eviscerated enemy with Hellion Sting, you are fortified for 1% max life, which is a good defense. And then to choose your skills, to enhance the skills, casting Hellion within 1.5 seconds of the last will increase the number of strikes up to 2 total hits per cast. Hellion Sting launches a wave of spikes forward, a long distance, dealing 50% damage and hit. Your fourth Hellion Sting, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I actually was going to record what I was going to say, so I'm going to start again. Right then, we got, this is your basic skills. You got Command Fallen, Molten Bomb, Doom, and Hellion Sting. All of them generate Wrath, which is one of your needs. It's Wrath and Domination is your two, what do you call them? Not you need to generate these. So these are your basic skills. You've got Command Fallen, Molten Bomb, Doom, and Hellion Sting. All of them generate Wrath, and all of them have different lucky hits. So you got the Command Fallen, which is a basic Demonology, Lesser Demon. Generate 10 Wrath, and you got lucky hit 30%. Summon a Fallen Lunatic that charges your target and explodes, dealing 80% damage. And many of these have came at us already in our live games. Then you got Molten Bomb, which is a basic Occult Hellfire. They generate 10 Wrath and have got lucky hit 27%. Lob volatile lava at an enemy, dealing 75% damage in a small area. You got Doom, which is a basic Occult and Abyss. Wrath generating 10, lucky hit 20%. Bust a sigil on your enemies, hexing them and dealing 50% damage. Last but not least is the Hellion Sting, which is a basic Demonology. Generating 10 Wrath, lucky hit 25%. So the lucky hits are all pretty much the same. Whip a Demon Tail forward, dealing 66% damage with a 5% chance to eviscerate enemies for 660% damage, which is that's big numbers. Then you've got a couple of twigs here. So that you've got Hellion Sting, so you've got damage. Hellion Sting deals 50% multiplicative increased damage to enemies for 3 seconds after you first strike them. So a little bit like a DOT, damage over time. Then you got Wrath. Casting Hellion Sting increases your Wrath regeneration by 10% for 3 seconds up to 30%. So that's a good generator. Coming down onto the other side, Hellion Sting is a 40% multiplicative increased eviscerate chance, not damage, chance against your primary target. And when you strike an eviscerated enemy with Hellion Sting, you are fortified for 1% max life, which is fortification is good. And then the 3 modifiers, you got casting Hellion Sting within 1.5 seconds of the last will increase your number of strikes up to 2 total hits per cast. Hellion Sting launches a wave of spikes forward a long distance, dealing 58% damage per hit. Not too shabby. Your 4th Hellion Sting attack transforms you into demon form and cleaves a wide area for 198% damage. Hellion Sting is now a Hellfire skill. Doom. Bust a sigil on your enemies, hexing them, dealing 50% damage. So this is shadow damage. That's physical damage, shadow damage. Right, so on the left hand we've got damage and Wrath. Okay, the same. And then we've got assimilation and echo. So we got, okay, so damage and Wrath, they're different from this damage and Wrath. So Doom deals 1% increased, why did they say multiplicative here anyway? 1% increased damage to enemies for each second they've been hexed. Doom generates 1 Wrath every second for an hexed enemy. Okay, so every 2 seconds for each hexed enemy. So you got another generator here. Casting a Doom against vulnerable, weakened, or slow enemies assimilates the effects, causing Doom to apply these effects for 3 seconds. So again, that's looks like a damage over time. Casting Doom echoes 10% of its damage to all nearby hexed enemies. Okay, and the modifiers, whenever you kill a hexed enemy, Doom spreads the hex to another enemy and deals 50% damage to them. Jailer. Doom is cast at a range on the ground, leaving behind a mark that tethers your target and hexes enemies for 6 seconds. Is an enemy going to be alive for 6 seconds? Shouldn't be. Doomfire Ritual. Your hex is applied with maximum stacks and lasts 15 seconds, but you can only have 1 hex target at a time. When Hex expires or is removed, Doom deals 170% damage split amongst all the enemies in the area. Doom is now a Hellfire skill. So that's 2 Hellfire skills there. So then we have Molten Bomb, Basic Occult Hellfire, Wrath Generation 10, Lucky Hit 27, Lord Volatile Lava, an enemy dealing 75% damage in a small area, and this is fire damage. So we've got Knockdown, Area Bonus, Ranged Damage, and Wrath. So Knockdown is a Molten Bomb has a 15% chance to knock down enemies for 3 seconds. When Molten Bomb is empowered by Volatility, this chance is increased to 100%. Fine. Molten Bomb impact area is increased by 30%, but does 30% increased damage to enemies at its center. Sounds good. Range damage. Molten Bomb deals up to 40% multiplicative increased damage based on how far it travels. So that's a bit of a range, obviously. Molten Bomb generates additional wrath on each impact. How many wrath are we throwing? We don't really know. But that's wrath generation. Then the modifiers. Cluster Bomb. Molten Bomb now lobs a cluster of six smaller shadow orbs, which deal 23% damage, causing another Molten Bomb splits the previous cluster mid-flight. Molten Bomb is now an Abyss skill. Demon Turret. Molten Bomb creates a turret demon on impact for 5 seconds that spits lava at surrounding enemies, dealing 24% damage. You can have 6 turrets active at once. Well, that's a nice little area thing. Molten Bomb creates brimstone at the impact location, which deals 56% damage when it explodes. Okay. I don't know, that does, to me, that just sounds like, yeah. There could be some uses for it. If you go for a fire build, so you've got a physical build, a shadow build, fire build, and okay, here is also physical damage. So 2 physicals, 1 shadow, and 1 fire. Command Fallen, Basic Demonology, Lesser Demon. Wrath Generation 10, Lucky Hit 30. Summon a Fallen Lunatic that charges your target and explodes, dealing 80% damage. We come across these all the time, everywhere. So Command Fallen generates 1 additional wrath for every demon or enemy that you have killed in the last 2 seconds, up to an additional 5 wrath. So we're summon a Fallen Lunatic, so you got a lunatic all the time. Command Fallen deals 1% increased damage for every demon you have active, up to 20% multiplicative. That's good. Then you've got your demons summoned by Command Fallen deal 8% multiplicative damage for every second they are alive, up to 30%. And this, I think, is going to be real important. Every 15 times you hit enemies with Command Fallen, you gain 1 dominance. Dominance is the other resource that you need along with wrath. And then, so the modifiers, Mega Lunatic. Command Fallen summons a Mega Lunatic, which deals 136% damage and bursts into 3 Mini Lunatics, which deal 40% damage. Every second, Command Fallen passively summons a lunatic that follows you around and detonates when enemies get close, up to 3 lunatics. So okay, Command Fallen is now a Hellfire skill. Or here, Command Fallen now summons up to 3 Fallen Grunts for 20 seconds, which deals 40%, generates 10 wrath per hit, Recasting while all active will direct or move them to target your command and is now an ability skill. For me, I think that this is going to be pretty important, this little cluster here, because generating wrath and I think this one in particular, generating dominance, is going to be real important, as we'll see as we get down the skill tree a little bit more. So this is what I'm going for to begin with, because I want to make sure that I've got enough resource generation to make sure that everything else works properly. The Hellions thing looks interesting, as does, no, just the Hellions thing looks also interesting. Right, so we now come to the core skills. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 core skills. So we'll just go round in a circle, anti-clockwise. We have bombardment, which is physical damage. Core demonology, lesser demon. Wrath costs 30. So this costs 30 times it every time you cast, which is why you're going to need a lot of wrath generation. Then on the twig, you've got damage and additional demon. Each cast of bombardment deals 5% increased damage. NAB per hit. And bombardment throws an additional demon. You've got telekinesis. Each time bombardment throws a demon, 35% to throw a surrounding enemy or lesser demon at your target. That sounds fun. So you'll say, here, have some of this. Bombardment chaotic spread is reduced by 30% and deals 30% increased damage when only hitting a single enemy. Okay, fine. And then your modifiers are ramping brutality. Each cast of bombardment within 3 seconds of the last calls down more demons, up to additional 4. Mangled demons. Each bombardment impact has 40% chance to leave behind mutilated demons for 6 seconds that attack surrounding demons, dealing 20% damage. Bombardment now only slams down demons randomly around yourself, but demons continue to rain down around you for 10 seconds. Afterwards, this effect can stack up to 5 times. Bombardment is a Hellfire skill. That sounds pretty neat, actually. But you know, that's a Hellfire skill. And these are physical damages. Hell Fracture, Core, Occult Hellfire, and it's fire damage. Summon the fires of hell to fracture the ground, dealing 80% damage to enemies in the area. The fracture remains for 15 seconds and explodes up to 2 more times when you cast Hell Fracture again. Sounds a bit like damage over time. Fracture remains for 15 seconds. So you're going to cast this and run and leave it behind. And then everything that's caught in it. Damage over time in all the seasons up to now hasn't been really particularly good. But this might be good. Standing within a Hell Fractured explosion can grant you volatility for 3 seconds. Casting a Hell Fracture reduces its cost by 25% until you cast a different skill. 35 cost. So it's like a quarter of that. So you're probably still 25-ish, roughly. Casting a basic skill increases the damage of your next Hell Fracture by 40%, but also increases the cost by 25% up to 4 times. That just doesn't sound right at all. So you cast a basic, and then you cast this 1, 2, 3, 4, and that costs you another 100%. I don't think so. Hell Fracture explodes an additional 1 time. Then you've got your modifiers, lava fissures. Hell Fracture creates lava fissures between each fracture and bust for 80%. Hell Fracture no longer explodes with each cast. Instead creates 3 smaller fractures in front of you that erupt into 5 brimstone when you enter. Each brimstone deals 60% damage when it explodes. Hell Fracture now reaches into the abyss, dealing 112 damage and pulling enemies inwards. Hell Fracture's an abyss skill. That might be quite good because you're pulling stuff in. But I'm just not sure that I like that particular way it performs. The next one is Umbral Chains, which is a shadow damage. So it's cost 35, lucky hit 6. Send forth a shadowy chain dealing 80% damage along the way and linking up to 2 enemies for 5 seconds. Enemies caught in the chain are slowed by 40 and take 25% damage per second. Okay. And again, so that's a dot damage over time. When Umbral Chains ends, it refunds a wrath for every enemy hit over its duration. That could be decent. Umbral Chain knocks back your primary and deals 50% damage. Multiplicative. Umbral Chains fly 50% further and its slow is increased to 80. Umbral Chains deals 20% increased damage when an unchained enemy is first caught by the chain. Hexed enemies always take increased damage, but it doesn't say by how much. So you could go something like knockback, which does 50, and then an extra 20 on top of that. Might be possible. So for the modifiers, Umbral Chains explodes for 94% damage when stretched to its max or when expired. If this happens, then any damage in the chain is added. So it's like kind of ramping up and it goes boom. Umbral Chains now always create a chain link back to you. Additionally, whenever you summon a greater demon, a chain is created between you for up to 30 seconds. Not sure how that would work actually. Umbral Chain whips around your target, dealing 20% damage per second to surrounding enemies, and it's now a Hellfire skill. Cool. A Blazing Scream, which is core demonology, Hellfire, and a greater demon. 35 cost. I think all of these are 35 cost. That's 30, 35, 35, and then 35. Send forth the demon skull, dealing 135% damage as it travels. I think the visuals on this would be pretty neat. Then we've got damage and cost reduction. Okay. Blazing Scream does 30% multiplicative increased damage based on how many different enemies it has hit, up to 30%. Hitting an enemy with Blazing Scream reduces its cost by 25% for 2 seconds. So you could cast this boom, 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 and you're getting a 25% reduction in cost. So it would cost maybe about 20 odd. Blazing Scream gains up to 30% increased damage based on your movement speed bonus. So you've got 200% movement speed. I don't know if that would be 200 times 30. That would be like 3,000 increased damage. I don't know how this would work right now. But you can get 200% movement speed. So if it's 200% times 30, that's an incredibly number. That's, yeah, 6,000%. I don't think that's how it would work, but you know, Blazing Scream knocks down enemies for 1 second. No, you're not going to choose this. You're going to choose this, whatever. Then your modifiers are Blazing Scream shoots out smaller skulls with 6 enemies and deals 61% damage. Blazing Scream now orbits you for 10 seconds. Skull deals 805% damage and extends demon form when it hits enemies. Channeling increases the orbit speed by 150 and refreshes the duration. So every time it would hit an enemy as you're maybe running, you've got this massive boost here based on your movement speed, and it's orbiting around you and dealing 805% damage and refreshes the duration. But it doesn't say if it refreshes your duration, by another 10 seconds. It just says it refreshes duration. So I can imagine a scenario that you're in a pit or in the Hell Tides or something like this, Infernal Hordes, and you're going to hit an enemy within 10 seconds. So it's always going to have this, you're always going to have this up with a massive amount of damage, and it being perhaps, and then you got another multiplicative damage here. So that could be absolutely massive. And then the last one is Blazing Scream, now 6 target location for 5, dealing damage and make enemies vulnerable. And it's now an abyss skill. But no, you probably wouldn't do that. You do this one. So this, and potentially this. That could be an absolutely massive damage. Then you got Dread Claws, Core, Demonology, Abyss, and it's shadow damage. Burst for 4 shadowy claws, each dealing 65% damage. Then you got your little twigs. Every second gain 20% increased damage for your next Dread Claw, up to 100%. Or killing enemies or demons with Dread Claws reduces the cost by 10% up to 50%. So that would be a 15 cost. The cost is reduction is a little less than a couple of that. So that's only 30. So that's a possible, but I think I'd like damage. Then you got Ambush. Dread Claws deal 50% increased damage when his first claw strike when attacking from strength. All claws gain this bonus. Or Dread Claws make enemies vulnerable if it strikes them for at least 2 times. I like the increased damage. Cascading Dread Claws set out 4 additional claws, and each set deals 30% multiplicative increased damage than the last. So you've got a potential there of 30, then 30, then 30, then 30, 120 potentially, or is it 30, then another multiplicative. If it's multiply, so 30 to the power of 4, no, that's not right. That wouldn't be right. Otherwise, that's an absolute insane amount of damage. Dread Claws are now cast around you, each dealing 107%. You consume 1 stack of Shadow Form. Also, conjure claws around your most recent greater demon summon. So here what you're doing is, as you're running and you've cast this, the Dread Claws are casting around you, so that as you're moving, they should be moving as well. Dread Claws are cast in a frontal cone, dealing 80% damage and killing any lesser demons that strike, which includes yours. Each lesser demon kill grants Dread Claws a 2% chance to eviscerate enemies for 163% damage up to 10%. Yeah. I like this idea. Combining with the increased damage from stealth, and then I'm thinking about speed. This is probably, for me, I think maybe the one of the better, but this also looks very interesting. Blazing Scream, orbits you. So this is a sort of hellfire. So you got a mix between hellfire and shadow. So fire and shadow. Okay, so then you're coming down to the defensives. So you've got Wall of Agony. We saw this in the videos. If you don't, go check it out. You got this wall of demons, and then once they break up, they go and try and kill everybody. So defensive, demonology, summon a lesser demon. Dominance cost 20. Summon and fuse 5 frenzied demons into a line for 8 seconds. The demons block enemies and flail wildly, dealing 30% damage, not multiple, 30% damage per hit to those in front of them. So it's like just a line. So you got knockdown. Each hit from the Wall of Agony has a 20% chance to knock down enemies. Or you've got cost reduction. Wall of Agony's costs are reduced by 50, but increased by 10% for every demon you've active. You have damage and small walls. So Wall of Agony deals 2% multiplicative increased damage for every point of dominance you have. Dominance is important. Wall of Agony now only spawns 3 demons, but its cost is reduced. Then the modifiers are Fallen Rush. When Wall of Agony expires, demon brutes remain for 5 seconds and attack nearby enemies, which I was talking about. It just go boom. Wall of Agony is summoned in a cage formation that pulls enemies inwards, or Wall of Agony is summoned in an encircling that knocks enemies back. This in gameplay looked cool, but in what I'm trying to do is speed farm and things like this is maybe not the best. And that is physical damage. So another one, physical damage. Tortured Wretch, defensive, demonology, summon, and greater demon. Dominance cost 15. I don't know how much your maximum is. I can't recall of ever seeing this yet. Summon a tortured demon onto your enemies, dealing 60% damage and taunting them to attack it. Casting a Tortured Wretch makes you unstoppable for 3. Casting a Tortured Wrench reduces its cost 30% for 3 seconds. This unstoppable is quite good. Death Saws. So okay, let's come to the other twig. When enemies enrage, when enemies attack the Tortured Wretch, they are enraged for 2 seconds, gain 100% increased attack speed, but taking 25% damage when they hit targets. They die quicker, but better attack speed. Enemies demon kill close to the Tortured Wretch extends its duration by 0.5 seconds up to 5 seconds. And then the modifiers, Death Saws. Saws grind up enemies around, periodically dealing 20% damage with a 5% chance to eviscerate enemies for 600% damage. Tortured Wretch no longer taunts, but now lasts for 5 seconds. And you do redirect all the damage to it, so as long as you stay in the area, it can absorb up to 100% of your max life before it's killed. Okay, the demon dies, it explodes, dealing 500% damage and fortifying you for 15% of the damage it absorbs, which might be pretty good in boss fights. Tortured Wretch no longer spawns a demon, but instead dominates a target's mind for 15 seconds, forcing it to taunt your enemies and take 50% damage when hit. Recast to direct the target around the battlefield. Tortured Wretch is now an Abyss occult skill. And again, that just doesn't sound too interesting for me. Not yet, anyway. Now, obviously, we don't know enough about these things until we get it into gameplay. And as we get into gameplay, we'll understand a lot better. So we have the next one, which is Dark Prison, which is shadow damage. Create a shadowy, cooldown is 20. Oh, so this is a cooldown. So that was dominance cost, that was dominance cost. This is a cooldown. Cooldown is 20 seconds. Lucky hit 20%. Create a shadow totem for 8 seconds that chains enemies, tethering them to the area and preventing them from escaping. Then we've got up on here the weaken. Enemies within Dark Prison are weakened. Enemies killed within Dark Prison reduces its cooldown by 0.5 seconds. Each enemy? We don't know. Small missiles that enter the Dark Prison are slowed almost to nothing. Hitting enemies within Dark Prison fortifies you for max life. Well, that's half decent. Dark Prison refreshes and creates a link to your last prison. So you can obviously do more than one because it's only 8 seconds, but the cooldown is 20. So to have more than one, you're going to have your cooldown 4 seconds, 2 seconds, for this to really be viable, because they only last for 8 seconds. Dark Prison lasts 50% longer, but you can only have one at a time. Okay. When the prison ends, all enemies within take 30% damage. Increased by 100% other enemy within. When the prison ends, all enemies within take 30% damage. Okay. Increased by 100% per enemy within. So if it's only one, it's 30 damage. If it's two, it's maybe 60 damage. Maybe. Non-elite enemies within the prison cannot die while it's active. Recast to collapse the prison early. Okay. Dark Prison now creates an aura of fire chains around you, reducing damage coming from outside by 35 and slowing enemies within by 80. Dark Prison is now a hellfire. I don't know, that just sounds to be, yeah. Okay, and the last one up on here is Nether Step. Defensive Occult Abyss Mobility. Cooldown is 12 seconds. Step through the shadows of hell to emerge at a target location, gaining 4 stacks of shadow form as well as 100% increased movement speed, which decays over 2 seconds. Okay, so you would need your cooldown down to 2 seconds or below. On this twig, Nether Step grants 100% damage reduction that decays alongside its movement speed. So if you can get your cooldown to, about 2 seconds, then you're 100% up on this. Nether Step gains an additional charge, and your other twig, so you can take one side of each twig, suck enemies into the exit portal and swap places with them. Bosses and unstoppable enemies take 1,000% damage. That's a big number. Nether Step's movement speed bonus lasts 50% longer. Well, I could see the scenario where you're sort of leveling up, and maybe this one's good, because if your bonus lasts 30%, 50% longer, so that's now for 3 seconds. So if your Nether Step damage reduction, if you got your cooldown at 3 seconds instead of 2, then that's pretty good. Nether Step portals remain for 10 seconds, can be re-entered. I wouldn't want to necessarily go back again unless maybe it was a boss fight. Nether Step now lets you run through Abyss while immune, cast to exit early. Nether Steps brings all your Abyss summons through with you and extends the durations by 3 seconds. That's probably this sounds interesting. but I'd probably go with this one to begin with. So then we come to the next branch, which is the Archfiends. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. So here you've got 2 of them that's dominance cost, and 2 of them that's cooldowns. So here on the Archfiend, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got Rampage, Archfiend, Demonology, Summon, and Greater Demon. And again, this is dominance cost, dominance cost, dominance, dominance. So this is, your Archfiends are all dominance cost. So you do need to make sure that you can generate dominance, because this is just a dominance cost. So the more dominance you have, the more you can actually cast these. And the quicker that you can gain back your dominance, the better. Summon a rampaging brute for 10 seconds. It smashes wildly, dealing 128% damage per hit, with a 5% chance to eviscerate enemies for 2,560 damage. Ouch. That would hurt. Kill streak damage. Killing an enemy or demon with rampage increases its damage by 20% multiplicative for 3 seconds up to 20 seconds. Does it say how long this lasts? 10 seconds. Casting Rampage compels your lesser demons to generate 0 wrath per hit for 5 seconds. Okay, I don't necessarily want 0 wrath. Demon Masher, Rampage now smashes your lesser demons to fortify you. I'll take some fortification. Rampage has a 100% chance to eviscerate elite enemies that are not already eviscerated. Although that might be quite strong. And then your modifiers, Shockwave. Each strike from Rampage sends a second smash forward. Rampage summons a larger demon that deals 50% multiplicative damage. Increased damage, recast to command the demon to leap around the battlefield, dealing 192%. Rampage is now an Abyss recast skill. This is physical damage. And the last modifier, Rampage, is now a direct leap attack, dealing 198% damage and transforming you into demon form for 5 seconds. Rampage is now a Hellfire mobility skill. Cool. I like that. And this is probably the way I would go to begin with. Infernal Breath, which is fire damage. So dominance cost 10, lucky hit 2, Archfiend, Demonology, Hellfire, Summon, Greater Demon. Summon demonic head for 7 seconds that breathes fire on enemies, dealing 20% damage per hit. Neat. Enemies permanently take a 1% increased damage from Infernal Breath each time it hits them, up to 25% multiplicative. Casting Infernal Breath infuses your lesser demon skills to grant 1 second of volatility per hit for 5. Expensive damage. Infernal Breath deals 140% increased damage but costs 100% more dominance. So instead of 10, that would cost 20. Infernal Breath deals 2,000 multiplicative damage the first time it hits an enemy, but no longer pierces. I don't know, maybe I take the 2,000. That's a big number. Modifiers, Demonic Breath is now a channeled fire breath attack. So you could channel this skill, dealing 73% damage and transforming into demon form. At the end of Infernal Breath, the demon explodes, dealing 210 damage. Explosion damage increased by 10 multiplicative each time the demon's breath hits enemies. Pretty neat. And Abyssal Torrent. Infernal Breath summons a larger demon for 15 seconds. Recast the aim and blast enemies 3 times for 315 damage. It's now an Abyss recast skill. That sounds quite neat. I like this idea of 2000% damage. I don't like the idea of 100% more dominance, but that's got some possibilities. Then we got Tyrant's Grasp, which is fire damage again. Archfiend, Demonology, Hellfire, and Greater Demon. Hey Dons, good morning. Just going through the Warlock skill tree. Summon a demon hand that pulls enemies away from you, dealing 100% damage. That's a keen on pulling enemies away from you. Tyrant's Grasp deals 100% increased damage against unstoppable enemies. Casting Tyrant's Grasp commands your lesser demon skills to slow. Tyrant's Grasp knocks down enemies. Areas increased by 100. This doesn't sound to be very interesting to me. Now a direct grasp attack that pulls enemy inwards and transforms you into demon form for 5 seconds. Tyrant's Grasp repeatedly reaches you and pulls it. Tyrant's Grasp summons the Abyssal Pit for consumes non-elites. That doesn't sound very interesting to me. Although it could be half decent in gameplay, but as I'm reading this, it just, to me, it just goes bleh. Profane Sentinel, Archfiend, and it's a dominance cost of 10. So the same, I think all of them are dominance cost 10. Archfiend, Demonology, Abyss, Summon, Greater Demon, and Recast. Summon a demonic eye for 15 seconds that focuses upon enemies with a beam that makes them vulnerable, which is good. Periodically blasts them, dealing 300% damage. Recast to direct the eye's target. So then we got single target damage, deals 30% multiplicative, only when it's a single target, which is okay for bosses maybe. Profane Sentinel induces your lesser demons to make enemies vulnerable. So you've got a chance of vulnerability here. 25% increased damage, but its blast area is reduced by 50. Areas 25%, 125% larger. Profane Sentinel is locked onto the same enemy the stronger it becomes, which is actually pretty good for bosses probably. But for speedrunning and things like this, not feeling it. Multiple Profane Sentinels, but can no longer redact their grays. Deal 210 damage and fire extra blast at nearby stealth enemies. This might be okay for maybe in the Infernal Hordes, but I really can't see much other use for it. Profane Sentinel is direct eye blast that deals 261 transform unit demon. Now a Hellfire skill. Yeah, see this one, the Infernal Breath, looks interesting, but the other two not so much. But I do like this Rampage because I'm thinking of leveling and then thinking about speed farming. I think that setup is probably a good idea. Then we come down to sigils. We got 3 sigils we can choose. We can choose the Sigil of Subversion, which has got a cooldown of 15. Sigil of Summons, which is a cooldown of 15. And Sigil of Chaos. So all of them have got 15-second cooldowns. So Sigil of Subversion, what does it do? Sigil, Occult, and Abyss. Cooldown 15, lucky at 20. Create a subversive ritual for 10 seconds that hexes enemies. Okay. Killing 8 enemies or demons within fuels the ritual to send forth shadow trails for 8 seconds that grant you 1 stack of shadow form every second while in them. You can have up to 3 trails active at once. Fine. Sigil of Subversion Trail grants you increased movement speed. Cool. Sacrifice, increase your max life to instantly trigger. Sacrifice 2% of your life to instantly trigger each of Sigil's Subversion kill costs up to 48% in total. Not sure exactly what the hell that means. Okay, sacrifice 2% of your life. I'm not sure I would. Up to a 48% total. Losing 48% of your life? No, thank you. Sigil of Subversion slows enemies. Sigil of Subversion can be placed at long range. Okay, fine. 50% longer, extend away from when you. Your shadow form loses no stacks while moving. Sigil of Subversion teleports non-bosses enemies back to the ritual area. Sigil of Subversion now creates lava trails that deals damage, is now a Hellfire skill. Yeah. Sigil of Chaos. Sigil Occult Hellfire. Create a destructive ritual for 10 seconds that grants you volatility within. Killing enemies or demons within fuels the ritual's chaotic hellfire, increasing the chance for each enemy to explode for 30% damage or increase. That sounds okay. Then we got duration for 10 seconds after you leave the area, so you sort of put it down and run away. Sacrifice 4% of your max life to trigger. No! I don't want to sacrifice any of my life. Unless I got like a ton of this stuff. Volatility empowered casts within the sigil count as triggering 3 kills. Hitting an enemy with Sigil of Chaos at 20%. Yeah. While within the Sigil of Chaos, you and your summons deal 204% damage to enemies. That's not bad. Cast around and 15 explode lesser demons. Kills within the Sigil of Chaos now send out 3 tendrils of abysmal smoke that deal 20% damage. Is now an abyss skill. Sort of sounds okay, but I don't like this losing life. Yeah, I think I'll give that a miss. Sigil of Summons. Demonology, summon lesser demon. Create a binding ritual for 10 seconds that extend the duration of your summons. Killing 8 enemies or demons fuels the ritual to summon demon for 20, which attacks nearby enemies, dealing 60 per hit. You can have 3 demons active at once. Sounds good to me. Enemies within the Sigil of Summons take 25% multiplicative increased damage from your lesser demon skills. Sacrifice 2 your max life. No, I don't want to do that. Summon deal 25 increased damage, but require 25% more increased. Require 25% more kills per summon. Sigil with some active cooldown was reduced when your greater demon dies. Okay, well that sounds like a good bet to me. Sigil summons now 2 additional demons. When Sigil summons these demons kill enemies, they gain 5% attack speed up to 50. That's good. That's not you, that's them. Sigil summons requires 16 kills to summon a hellworm that mimics your attacks by regurgitating related demons as you cast the lesser demon skills. That could be interesting. But I've went for this one. Sigil summons now will require 12 kills to summon 2 dark succubi, which fire abyssal blood stars, dealing 90% damage and inflicting enemies to take an additional 180 damage when they try to attack. Sigil of Summon is now an abyss skill. So that's the one I've went for here. Then we come into the last but not least, the ultimates. We've got Fiend of Abaddon, Apocalypse, Terror Swarm, and Metamorphosis. And these are cooldowns, cooldown, cooldown, cooldown. So these are all cooldowns. That's only 5 seconds cooldown. But the problem with this, I have a problem with this, because then I'll transform in a demon and gain demon form. Okay, fine. All Archfield demon form skill variants. A special melee basic attack that deals damage. An overridden skill will be at least the same rank as Metamorphosis. Cast again while active to cancel. So you might have to learn a whole new bunch of skill sets. I'm difficult enough to get one skill set and get my muscle retention in there. So I'm not sure I'd like the Metamorphosis. Grants 2% increased damage for each X% bonus max life you have. Increase 40% increase max life. 40% increased damage when you are reduced below your half your max life, but cannot heal above. Makes you unstoppable, but each time you're hit, no. Archfiend skills during Metamorphosis grants Sin up to 20 stacks. When you leave, each Sin can be consumed by casting non-Archfiend skills to generate 3 Dominance and Wrath. This can exceed up to 50% of your max resource values, which sounds okay. Metamorphosis adds to its ranks to Hellfire skills and only replaces non-Hellfire skills. It grants volatility while active, and each Hellfire skill can increase your damage by 8%, but burns you for 8% over 3 seconds. Fine. Metamorphosis adds its ranks to Abyss skills for 15 and does not replace any skills. Okay. Metamorphosis grants 4 Shadow Form stacks every second, and Abyss skills do not break its stealth. Metamorphosis is now an Abyss skill and has a 30-second cooldown. Okay, instead of 5, it's 30. Fine. Terror Swarm, which is the one I actually quite like. Ultimate Demonology Abyss Greater Demon. Cooldown is 30 seconds. Summon a terror from the depths that deals 500% damage and spews a voracious swarm that deals 100% damage per bite for 15 seconds. Terror Swarm periodically pulls enemies. I like that. Pulling the enemies into the center of the swarm. Or you can kill 3 lesser demons every second. Terror Swarm bites up to 2 additional times per second, or makes enemies vulnerable and takes increased damage from your Archfiend skills. Then you've got Terror Swarm stays in place. Terror Swarm starts smaller and weaker, but it grows up to 3 times as it feeds. Reaching max size, splits off into smaller swarms. Can have 3 active swarms. But I like this one. Terror Swarm stays around you and deals 100% damage per hit, and it's now a Hellfire skill. But this one also seems pretty good. So I might sort of try both of these to see how maybe try these to see which one works best. But that's the one I think I'll start with. Apocalypse. I mean, say that cooldown is 30 seconds. This cooldown is 66.6 seconds. Create a massive sigil that detonates after 2 seconds, dealing 666 damage to all enemies within. This ritual does not benefit from cooldown reduction, so you can only do it every 66 seconds. That sort of puts it in a bit of a no-no position. You can now channel the Apocalypse for 6 seconds. You can launch a Doom Bomb, a Field of Abysmal Mines. I don't know. You can probably play around with this, but additional 50% damage. Yeah, this one just to me just sounds like a bit of a no-no. And the last one is the Fiend of Abaddon. Cooldown 60 seconds. Summon a massive fiend for 15. That attacks enemies, dealing 250% damage per swipe. That's the big one that you see that has got this huge sword, which it looks pretty neat. The Fiend of Abaddon deals 2% multi every time a nearby enemy when it is summoned, up to 40%. So if you summon it and there's a ton of enemies around you, you could have a 40% multiplicative damage. So that's, instead of 250, that's 2,500 times 4, 10,000 damage. Increases the massive damage skill. So that, you know, that I don't know how many you'd need to be to get. Maybe you need to sort of have like 20 enemies around you. Don't know if you're ever actually going to have 20 enemies. So, but even if you've got 10, that's like 2,500 damage. That's big. Increased damage against elites and bosses. Now costs 30 dominance, has no cooldown. So that actually could be quite interesting, but it does cost dominance, and dominance is the one that sort of ticks up slowly. So this is why I think that your dominance, your resource generation is going to be real important. Spineful Enrage, an enemy survives more than 5 hits. Each subsequent hit increases damage by 2% multiplicative to extend its lifetime up to 60 seconds. So this in a boss fight could be pretty damn good. But you're only going to get the 250 damage per swipe, because when you're in a boss fight, the chances are that you're not going to have too many adds. At the most, you're going to have maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4. So it's maybe going to be, it still can be double, but depending on the boss itself, some of them have got no adds whatsoever. So, but that combination could be good against bosses. Fiend of Abaddon now summons a demon for 30 seconds for 325. Recast to command. This massive smash that pulls in enemies and explodes for 500 damage. It's reasonable. A demon for 20 seconds that moves with you and attacks for 450. Yeah, this sounds interesting, but I think I like the Terror Swarm better. And as it goes around you as you're running through enemies, I think that for leveling and for speed farming, I think this is probably a better bet. But maybe for bossing, this is a better bet. But dominance, if you choose, which one was it? Fiend of Abaddon now costs 30 dominance. You're going to need a lot of dominance. So that's the skill tree all done. To get from the basic to the ultimate, depending on how many skill points you can add to get to there, 13 points. If you can go, just go dong, 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 onto the next branch and the next branch, the next branch, it takes just 13 points to get here. And I do think that I'm not sure if it's going to do it this way. We shall have to wait and see. Maybe we're going to learn a little bit more on the 23rd when the developers live stream comes online. 11 o'clock Pacific time in America. 23rd. Mark your diary. I have. So that's the Warlock skill tree. Now I do have some gear and skills and such. But these are, as you're leveling up, you put in whatever is stronger than you've got already equipped. These are just sort of things that if you come to there, this is probably going to get you more into T1. But really, you as you're leveling up, put anything in there that's stronger than you've got already. So I've got Seer, Loom, back set. I do like the back set. I do like the wolves because they'll give you some crowd control. And then for the shards, I've went for Mastermind with the recast hex skills and increase the damage from your Abyss and Demonology skills by 20%. But I'm going to be playing around with this just to see which one. Casting a greater demon skill while in demon form. Additional. So there's a lot in here. But this is the one I've went because you gain movement speed. I haven't done any of these. And I am on, these are D4 builds because the one I'm usually on, which is the Mobilytics, they don't have season 13 up and running yet, and I wanted to get this out to you. Now in here, I'll go your sets. There's only this one here, and you'll have a choice. You can 1, 2, 3. I think the maximum is 5 that you can put in, but you can put 3 sets of 2 or 2 sets of 3 maybe. We don't know yet. We're going to learn more about this on the 23rd. So anyway, that's the way it is right now. And as we have the live stream on the 23rd, I'll be able to perhaps update this a little bit better after that. But until then, we are excited to get this done. Right, so I think what I'm going to do now is head back into the game. So let me, I'm probably, connection has been gone lost there, that's fine. Kenny expected that. Right then, so here we are back in the game. What build have we got on right now? We are on our boss killer. Do we have some boss? I've got a ton of these regular boss mods. I should really run some of these. How long is the PB? I could try. See if I can manage to get 9,000 in the Hell Tides, because this is the right area to try and do them. That's the only thing I haven't done so in this season is get 9,000 a 9,000 kill streak. So we've got 20 minutes or so. I'm not sure if that's actually enough time to get a kill streak done. A 9,000 kill streak done, I should say. But we'll have a go. See if we can manage it. Now I know the best way to do this is to switch off your crossplay, but yeah, I keep forgetting. So, oh, good. Right, so that is here. Now I could do with 3 or 4 of these. That would be nice, because each one of these can give me about 1,000 if I'm lucky. Now I don't really have to run in this one. I can just use my actives. And I'm not necessarily going to pick anything up yet, unless it drops inside here. Right, so what I'm going to do is come down this way and go make a big circle. If I can find a Hell Spire as well. This is a Soul Spire. If I can find a Hell Spire as well, that would be neat. A couple of Soul Spires, a couple of Hell Spires. That would be good. And then if they can remake themselves, okay, that's lots of house, don't really need that. A couple of lair boss sigils there, but I'm not really interested in the lair boss sigils, not right now. I'll take that one now, because they were inside. So that's done. We'll come up and get these. Now I'm deliberately not trying to kill them all, actually, because if I can just sort of kill and leave some standing, then that should be able to allow me to get sort of from one mob to the other a little bit easier. I'm not liking this way, so I'll come in here, go down here, and come up. And I guess what I'm also hoping that my... Is there another bod? Ooh, good. So there's another Soul Spire here. But I can't mark them up with more than one. So I have to sort of remember where this one is. Okay. And I did notice there was another bod. And this is why you need to turn off your gameplay thing. Crossplay, I should say. I'm just going to go a little active for a minute. So I'll need to come up this way because there's not a lot down here. I hope I can get that way. If not, I'm going to have to come... Oh. So we have boss sigil. Come on. Come on, respawn about here somewhere. Okay, they did respawn. Oh, good. Another soul spire. That's 2 of them. Oh, that's pretty neat. That helps a bunch. So I'll need to remember this area and hopefully these respawn. So I can come down this way and I can go up that way. Both of them seem to have a reasonably good... So I can't go there obviously. So I need to come down and up and around. So that's that done. I'm up. This is where it gets tricky. Tricky. So we can come down and can we get up without taking it? Yeah. This is where you don't necessarily want to have the Godslayer, because the Godslayer pulls everything in towards you and you don't necessarily want that. Now a Hellspire around here would be nice. So I want to kill, but not necessarily kill everything. Good, another soul spire. Only halfway, and it's only 10 minutes to go. Not sure if they're going to have enough time. Couple as a layer boss. Okay, we're over halfway. Not quite. We're 4.5. Over halfway now. These soul spires do give us more. Right, let's go. Here. It's coming. Oh, yeah. Top. I only need to touch one of them. Other soul spire. Ooh. Well, I'm over 5. Keep my fingers crossed. I wish they could mark these on the map, so you knew where the heck they were. They used to, you know, a few seasons ago. They used to actually mark these on the map. I'm pretty sure of that. But recently, no. One. Stay in there. Keep to the path. Seven minutes. Staying done. One. Down. Oh no. Okay, good. One. Right, is this respawned yet? No, unfortunately. One. Just keep one. This is going to be a little tougher. Yes, my eyes are glued to the... So I'll come this way. We'll do a bit of a U-turn. And come up into here. I'm a little scared to go across yonder. We could do with finding another Hellspire, or can we get this way? Try to get up here. We need to move across into the... Can we... We definitely need something, a Hellspire or a Soulspire or something, or a lot of respawns. One. Come on, come on, come on. Getting there, slowly but surely. I need some respawns. Ah! Some other buggers here. Ah, bollocks! Some other bugger just got be there before me. Damn! That was the closest I've come. I thought I was gonna do it there. Bummer. And that's why you need the crossplay off. I think I would have got there, even though it was probably pretty close, because I was coming up to the end of time. But yeah, damn. Right, let's go pick up anything that we can probably pick up here. God, that was annoying, wasn't it? That was the closest I've came. Damn it. Oh well, try again. Maybe better luck next time. So what we're doing just now is going around picking up these sigils. West London. We'll pick this one up. That was good. That was definitely helped by the amount of, I think, what was it, 3, 4 soul spires? But that's the sort of what you want, is 3 or 4 soul spires. Okay, Briar. Okay, let's just head back to town. Ah, so close yet so far. That is definitely the best I've done so far. Oh, there's a whisper.
It is done.
Amulets. We'll see what they do for us. So I made a recording of my going through the skill tree, so I'll release that later on YouTube. What we got, 3 to heavyweight, strength and heavyweight, which is actually not bad. Movement speed, faith on kill. You know, I could move away from movement speed and put something else in there. If anybody wants this, I'll keep a hold of it for now.
Better than starting from nothing. Use it well.
Add a few of these. Okay, we got, so what did we get for layer bosses? No need, no need, no need. No need. And don't need any forgotten wisdoms now. So I've got a few. Just take 10 of them. 1, 2, 3. 11 of them. Change across to the skiller. And take my medicine. I've got a ton of these. Look at this, 143. I should run some of these, really, shouldn't I? So these are just regular T4 bosses, not blood soaked or blood stained. Because I do have quite a lot of regular boss mats that I haven't run. So let's see if I can just do this without yeah. Quite easy. Okay, it looks like Belial's coming. Belial can be a pain in the butt in the blood soaked. Just miss that. Because he can be a little poisonous. Now, I like to stand in this area, then sort of jump up and down, because he comes to me. And it's better if he comes to you, rather than you go and stand in the middle. I found, if he come about here, he doesn't do this one first, generally. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen like this all the time, but what I've found is that if you lead the butcher to you, rather than you go to the butcher, then he's a little easier to kill. Because these things don't poison you as much. You're not standing on them. So that's why I usually sort of... You have to be sort of in here for it to start, then keep outside that, then just hit him. Just like that. I think that was a catchphrase by Tommy Cooper, which was a sort of British comedian, 70s, I would say, 1970s, long time ago. Right, let's back to town.
How shall I guide my
No, Blood Mad Idol. I keep saying this every time, but I really do think that next season this might be a very good amulet, because it's got all stats, attack speed and crit strike chance, as well as the damage reduction, and then you get the berserking for increased damage. Griswold's 1.6, no thank you.
Use it well.
Have I got... Yeah, let's... So this is the T7 bosses. Oh, T6.5 now. Now for the T6.5, I do need to make sure I've got my... Yeah, they're all up and running. I do need to run these. Very important. See if I can manage to do this properly. And I come back down here. Then I come up, down. He comes to me. There he goes. Down he goes. That's how we do them. But because when you stand here, he sort of bops you around, and you can be standing in some of these other grids, and they will fire and poison you like crazy. Bit of a pain in the bum. Message coming in.
Greetings. How
So,
shall I guide
what
you?
delights have we here? Weird skin, with the core. And again, I think these clubs are looking quite good. You got life, attack speed, crit strike chance, and core skills. I think again this might be a good set of gloves for next season. This season, maybe not so much, but next season, maybe. Because next season everything changes.
Wouldn't it?
Let's do a little glacial fishery. I haven't got any upgrades for a wee while now. But again, we need to make sure we get the rotations right. That's the key. But the regular T4 bosses are just way more easy. And I do need to remember to move every 2 seconds. He's done. There's no box here. The only sort of layer boss that doesn't have one. No doom box. You know, makes me wonder. T 6.5 bosses, T7 bosses, and next season it's going to go to T12. I mean, these T7s are difficult enough. Goodness knows what it's going to be like at T12. Yeah, nothing here. Strength cooldown reduction. All of these are going away next season. No discipline, no iron sharpens iron, no fortitude. So the way that you look at amulets is going to be very, very different to this season. Very, very different to how we've done so far. So things like this, where you get strength, life on kill, some resistance and some cooldown reduction, this is going to be much, much more interesting. For now, not so much.
What's left? Use it well.
Right, let's get back to doing these lesser bosses. Because I want to get rid of some of the... If anybody wants some runs, just drop me a message. It's not a problem. Some boss kills. For the T4s, I don't need to run the Arbiter of Justice or anything. It's strong enough without. Come to me. Can't come to me because he's killing my beasties. My besties. But that's okay. He rused the day he did that. Missed me that time. He's after his pound of flesh. What is 3 pounds of flesh? You know where that came from? Hamlet. Pound of flesh. He asked for payment. Can't remember exactly what it was, but it was in the play by Shakespeare called Hamlet. One more. Now we go back to town. And next season we've got this loot filter. By the time we get to sort of later in the end game, you're not going to want to be salvaging everything. So you can put the loot filter to only show you what you want, whether that's 1 GA, 2 GAs, whatever. Nothing here that I need. And we've still got, if I can, maybe I should sell them or something. You know, I would also say that this season I have not had as many mythics. Okay, last season was a bit extraordinary, but I have definitely had, even for the past maybe 3 or 4 or 5 seasons, this is the season that I have had the least mythics, and by a long way. Mythics, Shroud of False Death is not going to be the be all and end all for next season unless they change it considerably, because it's got the implicit there is +1 to all passives, whereas we're having no passives, so that is not going to be as everybody wanting for the builds as most seasons. Well, actually, I don't have it on either. I've got Mantle of the Grey. But I think that Starless Skies is still going to be good, I think. Oops. And maybe the Harlequin is still going to be half decent, and Dariel's is still going to be a no-no for most builds. Tyrell's might come in because of the damage reductions, or the Warlock, because the damage reduction on the Warlock is going to be something, I think. I don't know how squishy it's going to be. I got a feeling it could be a little squishy. Okay, I'll run one more set of 5. Then I'll maybe run something else. And I mean, is it for the... We all run Griswolds for the most part, unless you're running a pure Oradin and you'll run the axe. But both of these items... Oh, look at that! Oh, a 2 GA ring! Please, please, please. I'm going to pick it up. Oops. I was just complaining. I should complain more. I don't want to look at it yet. Okay, just open these boxes and back to town. Now, if it's a GA for double GA Starless Skies, the 2 GA that I really want is attack speed and crit. If I get a double GA and they're on these, that would be perfect. Chance of that happening for me? Few and far between. Completely the opposite. Lucky hit and core. No. Okay. I don't need. What I've got right now is actually because the GA is on a crit strike chance, and then I masterworked it up into attack speed, and for this build, this is better because attack speed and crit. I should just shut up.
Use it well.
Still, it dropped. One more open. Damn. But there been 12 torment levels next season. You know, there might, and then again, I'm just posing this, but they might sort of space out where mythics start to drop. Maybe, you know, very rare at Torment 1, they're becoming less rare at the higher your Torment levels you go. Now, what we saw is item powered 900s, but they were non-GA. Maybe GAs will be 950s. So the 900s have been sort of non-GA. Oh, just touched me. Okay, after this, just go back to town. Yeah, there'll be non-GA uniques, what I've saw anyway. So like here, you've got the Sunder Knight with aura skills. Well, actually, that might stay because they're aura skill, that's not a passive. But the Break the Line and Heavyweight, they're passives. So that's going to change. When you've got things like 3 to core skills and stuff like that, that's probably not going to change. I think.
What's left, you ask?
Right, let's try a different boss, shall we? Which one have we got more? Belial? Belial is a wee bit more difficult. Plodding along. So I don't get my movement speed until I do the Arbiter. So I want to come here. I want to just keep my wolves up. Right, so now we can go inside. I'll just pop up. And then boom, 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 boom. And what do you think? Griggs? See if we can get a decent Sunday night. So we just come here, behind the line until he appears. And then as soon as that green stuff, we can start to go. And we'll do the same again, see if we can get a Thunder Knight. Maybe we try a pure Paladin. Because my Bulldozer is not pure Paladin. Because it's a Bulldozer. It's a shield charge. Okay, we just jump up and down a wee bit. Boom, boom. Go. I need to take a break for a couple of minutes, get some water. So we'll head back to town. And then I shall just go for a quick break.
Use it well. keep my forge hot. See some steel you need. Greetings. How shall I guide my hammer? Use it well. Greetings. How shall I guide my hammer?
are you feeling? Peckish? Ooh, taste. Once you see how... Hope this... Oh. Thank you. Come again. Fresh meat! Once you see... Ooh, tasty! Don't you... Hope this... Please, too. I give my... Hey, don't forget who gave you a prime meal. Ooh, taste. One. Hope this meat... Meat to eat! Once you see how the sun... Ooh! Hope this... I get... Ooh. Hope this meets... I've got some... One... Fresh meat! One... Ooh. Hope this. One. Please to hope this. Thank you. Come again. Ooh, tasty. Ooh, once you see how the sausage is made, hope. Until we meet again. One. Hey. How are you feeling? Becky? Hope this. Meat to eat!
And I just realized I've had that microphone up since I went. Anyway, once again, thank you very much. Appreciate everything. It's good that you stick with me, even through all my little screw ups. Thank you, and we shall probably see you tomorrow. Bye for now.